then, and so we'll have it very, very soon.
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at proofs, one of the things that happened in my first book was that there was 2 lines just randomly that were 2 sizes larger than the rest of the book.
Yeah.
It was really bizarre.
Yeah.
And when I've done the formatting myself, sometimes you've got to make sure that a whole chapter, if you're using Word is the worst when you're trying to format a book.
Yeah.
When you're using Word and it's not justified for a whole chapter, or one paragraph somehow is counted as a different section of the document and doesn't justify it, and you've just got this squiggle in a random spot on the edge of the book. Oh, I feel like with formatting, you can be a perfectionist because there is a stopping point. You can actually have a perfectly formatted document.
Yeah.
But when it comes to writing, different sort of situation.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so
I'll have it in a couple of weeks.
I'm so excited to see it.
Yeah, well, I can show you the. I'll show you the. Actually, I'll just grab my little notebook.
So while Greg looks for that, I am with Greg. Is it Greg Currie?
Currie.
Currie, not Currie.
Currie,
so
yeah.
Greg Currie is here today. He is one of the speakers for the Logan Writers Festival for September 9th and 10th. And he is, after this session today, he's going to go and go and proof his books ready for the Writers Festival, which is really exciting.
And you just doing a mic
check? Just doing the introduction.
Yeah.
I chop and I cut off the ends so that like anything that's a bit skew-if is all tidied up. But I always like to start the podcast or the introductions very colloquially, so it's like someone walks in on a conversation.
Yeah. So that's the cover and the blurb on the back.
Stunning. Hang on, let me show you over here what that looks like. Isn't that beautiful?
And I'll show the 3D image if you like.
Oh.
Where's the 3D?
Have you emailed these ones through?
To you?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So
no,
if you
I haven't.
email them through, we can probably pop them in some promotional stuff for you if you like.
Okay, yeah, fabulous. Yeah, I'll do that. Where's that going? There it is. So that's the that's the 3D version.
That's amazing. Okay, hang on. I'm going to show the lovely people. Beautiful.
And so I got some exciting news today.
Yes.
I rang. I did a media release, and because it's coming out soon, and so there's a guy at the ABC in Bundy, which is the White Bay ABC, and he does book reviews in his program on. He does nearly every day now, and I thought that there's the first point of contact. So I rang the ABC to get his email to send the thing, and he actually answered the phone.
Oh my gosh!
And this was a week ago, and I said, I just want to get your email to send. And he asked about the book, and then he said, look, I've got to go on air, but ring me this afternoon. Gave me his mobile, and he actually lives in Hervey Bay. So
oh wow!
So he asked me to ring on the Monday, and I rang, and and he just got home, and he'd locked himself out of the house.
Oh,
He's
no.
sitting around the back, and he says, look, what are you doing at the moment? Well, it's to come round, we'll do it now. So I had no preparation at all. but why he wanted to interview me, so he's interviewing me twice, and why was because I used to work at the ABC. I worked at the ABC in Brisbane.
Oh wow! Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Just dropping all the bombshells on me today. This is amazing.
Well, I worked there when it was, and I just casually said to him, I said, "Oh, look, we've got something in common. I used to work in Brisbane many years ago," and I said I was actually working for 4QR when it was the 50th anniversary, and you know how they're doing their 90th. And he said, "Oh, great, we'll do an interview about that." So he did that. That's the one he did first, and then in a couple of weeks he'll do the book. Then the breakfast announcer contacted me, and he does this segment, and he's just literally just emailed me again he's going to do it next week. No, he's going to do it on Thursday. But he said he's got this thing called Shuffle, and he does one interview and cuts it into 4 pieces where he'll ask you about your life, and he'll get you to pick a song. So one from your childhood, one from your teenage years, a young adult, and one from now type of thing. And because I've got so many stories, it's perfect. And so he's going to do that on Thursday. And so the publicity I'm getting is just incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just,
a lot of authors get so worried about approaching external sources, right? So it could be bloggers, vloggers, podcasters, it could be actual radio stations and TV stations. They get so nervous about doing it. But you don't realise that the worst thing that can happen is someone will say, sorry, we're not really interested in that. That's the absolute worst that they'll say.
Yeah.
Other than that, the sky's the limit. If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be a no.
And and my sister's, she actually published her own book about 5 years ago. It was a bit about her story, but it was about work. She was she's a speaker and into PR and publicity and all of that stuff. That's her background. She previously was a model many years ago, but so she had given me a lot of tips about what to do. But as she said, you just send it to everybody. You just take every opportunity, and then whenever somebody gives you a review on it, you put that on the Facebook and all that.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who it's from. If it's from somebody who's unknown, it doesn't matter. You just so that's what I'm going to do, is get out there and publicise it as much as I can.
Yeah.
See how we go.
Also, I feel like if you actually worked in the ABC, and so you had that point of connection, so it's always good, and I feel like a lot of authors are very good sleuths. It's good to do a bit of research about the specific person you want to contact.
Yeah.
A great way to do that, like within the Chamber of Commerce, one of the reasons that I tried to get the arts into the Chamber of Commerce is because there's so much access to media through the chamber. You can meet people directly by coming to Chamber of Commerce meetings.
Right. Yeah.
You can, if you're going to places where these people circulate, you get the opportunity to meet them face to face, which means you get a leg up on getting contact through to them.
Yeah.
It's really important to be able to be of value to the people in front of you.
Yeah. And that's it. It's just anybody. It doesn't really matter, does it? And
No.
just talk to anybody. And I've found since I've on the verge of having it printed, and I had to drop my car in this morning, and I said to the...
You've had such a busy day.
I know, I've had a very busy day, very busy couple of days. This is...
yeah, you've got a Band-Aid on the side of your face.
Yeah, sorry, I apologise for that.
You know what, when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's great, because this is the side of the camera.
I was worried about that. I thought, could we change
I give you the cushy chair.
And I was thought, I'm not supposed to take it off for another day. I went to a dermatologist to see. That's I had to come down because I've had skin cancers.
Australia's life of an Australian.
Yeah, especially when I was a kid, there was no
slip, slop, slap.
And we used to go to the beach and get burnt every weekend. And my mum and dad were brown, and they just loved it, whereas I was fair, and so I had a lot of damage. And so I see the dermatologist every 6 months.
I knew a lady, a girl rather. She was well under 19. She worked on cruise ships. She was one of the massage therapists. I just remember this one time we were in the Caribbean, and all of the Australians, like anyone working on the ship who was Australian, was like, all right, hat, sleeved shirt, sometimes a full skivvy, sunblock everywhere. They take a bottle of sunblock with them, and they'll get in the water and they'll soak the hat and everything, but there's no way they're getting touched by the sun. And this particular day, this girl from the UK slathered herself in baby oil with the intention of roasting, and she had 2 days off work from sunstroke. Yeah. And it's just so many British people do that, and I'm like, ooh.
It's funny, they're one of the highest rates of, we're the highest of melanoma, but the UK is very high. Like at the moment, they're having that massive heat wave, and it's because they don't slip, slop, slap. They're not used to it.
If they do, they've got vitamin D deficiency.
Yes,
yeah.
So they get very badly burnt, and that's where it all starts.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
So
a little
very normal.
She has a little bit, just with a little SCC, I think, and she froze a couple of things off. But the good news is no melanomas. So,
beautiful, well done.
So that's but I've got to leave it on for another day, so I couldn't take it off.
That's fine. That's all right. We've got the camera lined up beautifully.
I'll just put
now,
my hand up.
Your book, A Sailor's Life.
Yes.
I've worked on cruise ships and I love the ocean. What is it looks like it's going to resonate with me really well. Tell me a bit about your book.
Well, the book is basically about a trip I did in my little yacht, and I sailed in 2006, I sailed from Brisbane to Darwin, and then I sailed from Darwin across to Africa. And it was only a tiny little 22-foot boat, and I did it solo, so it was a mammoth trip. So that's what the story's about, but it's not just that. It's actually a story about me, why I went, and so it's a memoir as well, and the consequences of going and the effect it had on me, why I went, and the place I was in when I went. So it's a lot deeper than just a sailing book.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting when I took it to the editor, and she'd never sailed at all and thought she wouldn't be interested, but she really loved it because she said, "Oh, the sailing part didn't bother me. You explained enough about what's happening. It's more about the the story of me," and that she was really really interested in. So I think in some ways, well, I don't know yet, but I think in some ways it's going to maybe cross genres in a way. I think so. It'll hopefully appeal to the sailing fraternity, but it should also appeal to other people who just like a bit of an adventure story, and also it's a memoir as well. And so there's other stuff in there as well.
I feel like memoirs were nearly one of the original. It's like we've become. I'm not sure if we've become a very voyeuristic society, but we're constantly seeking that connection through seeing other people act. Like Gogglebox, for instance, on the TV. My grandma went crazy for that. And then watching people play games or watching people perform basic activities on YouTube is very popular. Memoir seems to be a more refined version of that. You get to see into someone's life, and it's still all of those forms are typically quite edited, so that you're only seeing the parts the person wants you to see, or they're very foolish.
Yes, that's right.
But it's very interesting. I feel like that's just part of human nature. Human nature is curious at its core. And it doesn't have to be about sailing. It can just be, I want to know what this is about. Yeah.
Well, that's why I ended up a psychologist. I've now, been a psychologist for 30 years. I've now I've retired. But
you're the second psychologist we've had.
Oh, yeah.
The second psychologist.
Yes, I think I saw you. I did. I saw it on the
And I think
Facebook.
we've had 2 psychologists in this year, and we've also had 2 other people that went to uni for psychology as well.
Right.
It's just the theme of this year, growth and resilience, brings about all the brain doctors.
Well, the thing about being a psychologist, the thing that appealed to me so much, and was the people's stories. And you're right, like people love, and like I would listen to people's stories, and it always fascinated me the complexity of stories and the different stories. But that's why I think memoir is really popular, is because we do like reading other people's stories. And if we connect at some level, and that's it. If there's some childhood issues might connect, or later on, it doesn't really matter. It's that connection.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will get something more than just the sailing story. But the basis of the book is the trip, that particular trip, and the effect it had, and the consequences of it. But yeah, so that's what it's about.
Well, that's very fascinating. Oh, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about what you'll be speaking about at the Logan Writers Festival this year.
Well, because of the growth and resilience, and because I've only got half an hour, I could, being a bit of a talker, I could speak for about 5 hours. But the basic outline of my talk will be about the 2 main characters in the book, about setting it up and saying what the event was. But it'll be the 2 main characters were me and Becca, my boat, and it's the story of the resilience of Becca and me, getting across the ocean, and because so many things happened that it was very very scary and very hairy, and also it'll be about me and the effect that it all had on me, and how. So the growth side of it will be how I resolved the issues and came out the other side, and hopefully was a better person for it after, and particularly after writing the book too. It wasn't just the trip; it was actually writing the book made me face all of those things, and so that's what this talk will be about.
How old were you when you made the trip?
Oh, I was in my 50s when I
Okay.
went, so I was midlife crisis sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it was. Do you want me to tell you why I went on it?
Yes,
And,
I would love to know.
Well-
It might help all of the watchers and the listeners out there be like, oh my god, now I need to know more.
Well, at that time, I was happily married and had two daughters. One was at uni and one was doing grade 12, and life was. I had my own practice. Life was pretty good, but I was also working. A few years quite a few years earlier, I had. When I was young, I was in the Navy. I joined the Navy when I was 15, and I got out after about 8 years, and that's a whole story in itself. But so I never thought I'd ever have a connection with the Navy again. But once I became a psychologist, I was at a conference and I ran into some Army psychologists and a couple of Navy psychologists. And in my time, they never had Navy psychologists. Anyway, so I got talked into joining the reserve. So I joined the reserve and was going away doing different trips. Well, in 2004, you might remember the Boxing Day tsunami in Indonesia, in Banda
I was in
Aceh.
Bateman's Bay when that happened.
Well, I got a call straight after, Christmas Day or day after, whatever, and from my boss, Navy boss, and he said, "Would you be available to go to Banda Aceh?" And I said, "Yes, I would." And at that time, I was also managing a psychology clinic at Ipswich, and I'd do it a couple of days a week, 3 days a week. So I asked them, and they thought, "Oh, it was great." They were happy to let me go. So I went for what was supposed to be a month, that then turned into 3 months, and it was a very arduous trip, and the devastation, the destruction in Banda Aceh was just unbelievable. So that had a reasonable effect on me, or had quite an effect on me. But the thing that really affected me was, excuse me, just after I got home, I was only home about 2 days, I think, a few days, and the ship had been, a long story, the ship was supposed to be coming home, and it had been diverted to another earthquake that was in Nias off the coast of Sumatra. And I had flown home because a lot of the other reserve medical team had all flown home as well. We didn't think we'd be needed again. And then I got a call in the middle of the night that one of the helicopters had crashed and 9 people were killed.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew 3 of them very well, the 2 pilots and the observer, who I got to know really well, and one of the crewmen, and then there was a doctor who was killed as well, who I'd done his debriefing before he left, and because he'd been up there, and he turned around and volunteered to go back again, and he got killed, which was...
Goodness.
So that had a real effect, so I got back and I went back to work and I went back to the clinic, and I was, but I was pretty down and I was struggling to cope. So I said to, and I would have been depressed,
Yeah.
and I said to my wife that I bought a little Becca about a year before, I think, and Becca was designed to sail oceans, so. But I said, look, I just want to do a trip up the coast, take some time off to overcome my problems, which didn't go down very well, but that's what I did. And so I ended up sailing to Darwin. But by the time I got to Darwin, I really wanted to go further, and of course my wife didn't want me to go further, and so our marriage ended basically by the time I got to Darwin. So that was one of the consequences of the trip.
Oh wow.
But she was terrific in that. You'll read in the book how she supported me through issues that I had along the way, and but the outcome was that was the end of our marriage.
Yeah.
So that's one of the themes, of course, in the book, was that's one of the consequences. And the other consequence, I guess, was that it didn't really fix my depression. and when I got to Mauritius, I was in a bad, just a bad spot at that time as well. But I got out of that, and that's the growth part. And I got and I had repairs to do to the boat and all sorts of things. But by the time I got to Africa, I don't want to give the ending away. But, I sort of decided I didn't want to sail solo anymore, and I'd had too many close calls, encounters with death. So,
yes, it is.
So that was the reason I went, and
honestly, sometimes I don't know how cruise ships function, because the amount of drunk people that you have in a position where it is so easy for them to just fall over the side. But the railing is all quite high, but oh my gosh, I can't imagine. And this is a big ship, so when it rocks, the waves are massive. So I can't imagine what it's like to be on such a small ship, going across the ocean. That's the Indian Ocean, isn't it?
Yeah, which is a very rough ocean.
Where did you stop at?
Well, that's part of the story. I had 42 days alone, with a non-stop, because I missed Cocos Island, and you read about what happened there. So I had these series of events. And so that's why I ended up, and the first stop was a little island called Rodriguez, a beautiful little island.
I've been there.
Oh, you've been to Rodriguez? Oh, you know. Well, yeah, you're one of the first people I've talked to who's actually been there.
The ship didn't stop on mainland Africa when we needed to. It stopped at Rodriguez. But yeah, I got to pat this beautiful little black cat there.
So I went to Rodriguez, and then to Mauritius, and then to Reunion briefly, and then to South Africa. And,
beautiful.
But that first 42 days was incredibly difficult, and so that's what I'm going to talk about in the talk, is the those challenges, the obstacles I had to overcome, because I lost my GPS over the side.
Oh my gosh! Yes. So that's your compass, right?
Well,
did you have
navigation. This is the GPS, which gives you latitude and longitude, which everybody uses now. But luckily I'd taken my old plastic sextant and a little calculator that was programmed with. It was called a Merlin, and so I had to but I'd done very little celestial navigation, and so then I thought, I'll be right, and but I wasn't quite right. so then my boom broke, which is the bottom of the sail. The boom broke, and then just before I got to Rodriguez, I had to. Before it was Cocos, I had to call for help, and so I contacted Maritime Safety, and they allowed me to turn on my EPIRB, which then gave my position, and which was highly irregular, and so I was able to get my position, and but I couldn't get into Cocos, I was too far west, and so I went on to Rodriguez, but just before I got there, I then had rudder problems, and something was going wrong with my rudder, and so
it's so many errors.
I know.
So many things that can go wrong in a ship that just absolutely wreck you.
And I said to,
oh my gosh.
I said that I was just absolutely lucky. To my editor, I was just saying how lucky I was to just make it, and what could go wrong went wrong. That's the other thing I said that I say in the book, I think, is but she asked me to put in what I'd learned, about the trip, and so I put that in, and but one of the thing I said was that my book probably reads like a how not to sail solo manual across. So there'll probably be a lot of sailors who read the book and they'll go, oh no, why did he do that? What did he get to that? So don't use my book as a guide.
It's not a how-to. No, it's not a how-to. You heard it here. It is not the idiot's guide on how to sail.
Exactly. Although I used to think I was a competent sailor, I'm not so sure anymore. Because I'd sailed for years, I sailed all my life really.
there's something magical about the ocean that so many of us are just absolutely drawn to, and it's magnetic in its power for us. But the humans have not by any means tamed the ocean. You can see so many things that still go wrong, even with huge tried and tested ships, let alone a small one.
Yes.
How big is Becca?
22 feet.
22 feet.
That's the length of this room. That's it.
No way.
Yep, that's
no
it.
way.
That's all it is.
Oh my god, it's like a dinghy.
It is.
It's the size of a
but
dinghy.
well built, like very well constructed, and it was a beautiful little boat. Yeah, she was. And, but it was built for the oceans. It was built on a design for an original boat called Trekker, and that was designed by this English naval architect firm called Lawrence Giles, and the guy who asked for it to be built said he wanted a small. They'd actually built a 19-foot one, but they then built Trekker to 22 feet. And this guy, John Guswell, he was English, but he was living in Canada at the time, and he built it himself. And he was the smallest boat then to sail around the world in 1950. I think he left at about 55 and finished about 58. But so Trekker was the original one, and Becca was designed. It was a little modified from the original Trekker, but it was basically a Trekker.
Yeah.
So any sailor will know. Any sailor is my vintage anyway. Will know about Trekker. The story of Trekker. Probably read the book. It's a famous book. So the fellow who I bought Becca off, his name was Pat Hunter, and Pat spent 10 years, working, getting it ready, planning and everything, and then 10 years actually building it.
Yeah.
But by the time he got to sail it, he was in his 80s, so probably early 80s, and he just wasn't able to do what he originally wanted to do, was sail around the world. And then by a whole series of coincidences that are in the book, I came across it and ended up buying it, and that was my idea, was to sail around the world. But I didn't get there either. But I got to Africa. So
you got to Africa. That's huge. That's huge.
It was enough to write a book about.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about what you'll be speaking about at the Logan Writers Festival this year.
Well, I'll be talking about that, about the how you can overcome those sort of obstacles, and how I learned overcame them, and how I was able to overcome my problems as well. So that's the growth part.
Yeah.
But you haven't given me enough time. I had two hours.
You've got.
Well, this will be longer than my talk, probably.
You've got your speaking spot, but then anyone else is able to come before and after your talk to chat with you. Yeah. So you actually get 2 days to talk.
Oh, good. Well, I'd love to talk to people about it. Awesome. And what's been happening as well, like I was telling you this morning, I drove my car in, just had to get something checked. And when I picked it up, and I said, I'm coming to see Rhiannon to have an interview for the Logan Writers Festival. And he goes, because I said I've written a book and I'm also picking up the proof copy today. And he said, and so I wanted to know all about the book. And this is what happens. You just start telling people. And so then I started telling him a bit about the story. I showed him the cover like I showed you. And so he said, put me down for a book.
Oh, exciting.
My hairdressers the other day, the barbers I go to, they want a copy. And so, yeah.
It's all about the courage to actually start speaking about it. Because we all love what we write. That's the thing. Everyone.
But you must be like me though, where.
Very possibly.
That's my biggest fear in a way. Like the beta readers I used, they both loved it, and my editor really loved it. But it hasn't gone out there, There's a very limited number of people who've read it. And that's my fear at the moment, I guess, is what if people don't like it? And my sister said, well, people won't like it.
There's always going to be people that it doesn't resonate with, that they are too fixated on what you've done wrong while you're sailing, that want to hear it from a different person's voice. And that says more about them than it does about you. Yeah. And I think that's really important to remember.
But I must admit, I'm a bit scared. You know?
A bit scared?
Well, just a bit scared. I'm happy with it. That's the main thing, and I think
Do you think the anticipation of negative feedback that's worse than actually receiving the negative feedback?
I think so.
Yeah.
And anxiety. I've had anxiety, and it is that.
You're a psychologist. Every psychologist has anxiety.
Right. Exactly. And it does. It snowballs. It really does. And it always is the anticipation is worse.
It's like tearing off a Band-Aid. The thought that it's going to hurts a lot more than just doing it and having that flick.
Yeah.
And the same with a lot of people getting up in the morning and doing your yoga or doing your run. It hurts more to think about getting out of bed than it does actually doing it.
You should be a psychologist. That's what I tell my clients. That's right. But it is, it is worrying. But I'll be fine, I'm sure. And I'm sure some people will like it. That's all about. I don't care if
it sounds like you've got a good repository of good feedback. So whenever you get struck with bad stuff, I always tell everyone, go back to the person that you actually value the opinion of telling you that it's good.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that a lot of authors, so like the most popular authors I know, don't read their own reviews. They don't look at them. They don't care what anyone else has to say. They only care what their editor says, what their beta reader says, and what their agent says.
Yeah.
Those sorts of people. They care about a few select opinions, and everyone else is like, opinions are like arseholes.
Yes. You don't have to swear on this.
You know what? This is, when I put this on YouTube, I say, not for children. The Friday ones are for kids, and the Saturday ones are all for mature people.
Yeah.
I say mature, we can swear.
Yeah. But it is as natural to be a bit apprehensive.
Definitely.
But that's what, like you were saying, the people who, like my editor, who had never sailed and never wasn't interested really, when she liked it, then I thought, well, that's good
something
feedback,
to it there.
And one of my better readers was my brother, and of course he wasn't. Well, I don't know. Maybe he would have told me if it was rubbish.
I feel like certain family members, like if you're getting your mum to read it, she's probably going to say, "Yeah, that's lovely. I really enjoyed it."
I didn't finish it.
You know what? I got distracted by all the other stuff I was doing, but I will finish it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've got people that will give you a bit of curry, just like your surname.
Yes, the pun. Pardon the pun.
So I never pardon my puns. But when someone's going to give you a bit of flack for something silly that you've done, you can trust that opinion when they say that it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my second beta reader was, or beta reader, whichever way it is. I don't know.
I don't know. How do the Greeks say it? That's where the word comes from.
Yes, I don't know.
We have to find out how the Greeks say.
And I didn't even realise what a beta reader was. And then there were alpha readers, and then beta readers. But anyway.
By the time you get down to E, that's your editor.
Yes, that's right. But one of mine was, I was going to get a friend who's actually still in the Navy now, and he's up in Darwin, and he didn't have time. He's absolutely flat out, and because he's got a really senior role. And he said, look, but why don't you ask Marcella, his wife? And Marcella's lovely, but she was a librarian, and she's an avid reader. And she doesn't pull any punches.
Excellent.
So I gave it to her, and but I also then gave her the revised version, and she sent me a lovely email and said that she enjoyed it even the second time because there was so much cut out of the original version, and she missed. So what happened was I ended up writing 180,000 words, and because I wrote the middle part was about my childhood, so I was reflecting on childhood in the middle of the ocean, but it was too much, and so
too much exposition.
Yeah, and they said that's 2 books, so cut it out, and so I cut that middle section out. And when she read the newer version, she said, "Oh, I missed all that stuff, that you'd written previously." But she still thought it was good the way it was. But when she said she enjoyed it for the second time, even reading it a second time, I thought, yeah, well, that's good feedback as well.
Wonderful, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, where can people find more of you, Greg?
I have a Facebook page,
Beautiful.
Greg Currie Sailing, and probably not that professional as yours.
You know what? Mine's been active for about 6 years. So,
Yeah.
and I'm born in the generation that makes Facebook pages for fun.
Yes, absolutely. Whereas I'm the older generation where you have to drag me kicking into all this stuff.
I feel like the older generation has a better abilities. My mum does this. She can walk into a room and make a friend straight away. She's made friends with her tobacconist, who's this beautiful, I feel like she's either Filipino or Singapore lady, and she has fruit ready for mum when she rocks up to get smokes. Shouldn't be smoking, but she's made a friend out of it. And she'll walk into a room and she'll make friends, and instantly people are like, oh yeah, I can see all of these opportunities for you, and I can see how I want to be your customer, and they put themselves there. Whereas when you've got a younger generation, they're so frightened of stepping out and being like, oh well, hey, I've got this book and I think it's pretty good and I think you might like it too. Instead of doing that, people generating that curiosity about what you've done in the first place is something that I think everyone, I'm going to say over 35, is much more adept at.
Yeah. And I think that social media is fantastic the way, it was never there before.
Oh, we're able to connect with family.
And it must have been so difficult to, promote things in the good old days. It was all about press releases and media.
And you were at the behest of publishers as
yes,
well.
Yeah. Whereas, even with my personal Facebook page, all my friends, they all ordered a copy. They all want a copy, and so it's terrific. You just get this instant sort of audience, which is great.
Beautiful.
But I have got the Greg Currie Sailing Facebook page, and I've got a web page, Greg Currie Sailing, as well.
Beautiful.
But it's a little amateurish. It's not that professional.
As long as people can order their book through it,
yes,
I think they'll be fine.
Yes, and I have the emails and everything, so
wonderful.
People can order it through there. And just one thing I'd like to add is that I'm giving $5 from the sale of each book to Mates for Mates.
Oh, wonderful.
Because I'm actually a veteran. I was a veteran when I was a young sailor, and but I also worked as a psychologist for many, many years with veterans from Vietnam all the way through to Afghanistan, and so I would really like to give a bit back to veterans. So I'm going to. So I thought that's a good way of doing it. And
beautiful.
So if anybody wants to buy a book, $5 will go through me. $5 will go to Mates for Mates.
Excellent.
Which is
such a good cause.
Yeah, it is.
Such a good cause. So important.
Yeah.
The mental health of our veterans.
Yeah, I think mental health for everyone, but
yes,
but
they've been through something that's nearly intentionally traumatic.
Yes.
So 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So please grab your copy of Greg's book. When is it coming out?
Well, I'll find out this afternoon.
Okay, excellent.
How the proof looks, and I'd say a couple of weeks at the maximum. So
beautiful. So you'll be able to get your book very soon, and you'll be putting your money towards a really important cause in the country. So
and hopefully enjoy reading the book.
Yes, and you'll love reading it too. Go on a sailing adventure.
Yeah, you'll have to hurry because they'll sell out.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today,
thank you,
Greg.
Anne.
This has been
great.
delightful.
Yeah, it's been a lovely talk. Yeah.
We will see everyone on the 9th and 10th of September this year, and you'll be able to see Greg, chat with him, or watch him chat for half an hour, and then go chat with him for the rest of the day at his stall. So we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.